resubmit again very quickly. I did it 6 times before I got mine. And Fran did the same thing, same kind of deal happened. She got it on her 4th time.
Through Publix.
Through Publix, yeah.
I got my shot at Public on Monday. I went in every time and finally got locked in where I could go in after waiting. Also, I got one of my neighbors also when I went in. So I had some information and got my shot in one of my neighbors for one on last Monday
Great.
with Public.
Lanny, you got your shot, didn't you?
Through Collier County, yes. I never got in with Publix.
Yeah, boy.
Oh, we're up and live and we're on YouTube.
Okay, very good. Let's call the meeting to order at 1:35. Welcome home, John. I guess we're ready to roll.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum?
We do.
Okay, do we have members speaking?
I don't have anything submitted to me.
No members speaking. Okay, we're at item 4 already. Secretary's report and approval of minutes from December 17th. Linda, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the December 17th, 2020 board meeting.
Second.
Question, Suzanne, did you send everyone the addition that was left out of that first draft?
I don't believe I resent it to everybody, but it has been updated.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand.
As amended, yeah.
Motion passes. Let's move to item 4. President's report. I have no report for you today. Let's move to manager's report.
Hey, everybody. The first part of your packet right before my report is the strategic planning dashboard. This is if you want to call it a simplified version of our existing strategic plan. Paul had given Cezanne and I this format that he had used for his some of his businesses and up north. And really what he said is it just gives you folks as a board an idea of where we are on various things. It doesn't go into the detail of the key points of the strategic plan, which are fairly voluminous in nature. If you remember, landscaping, for instance, had 8 or 9 or 10 points each with different goals and initiatives. So this is just a way of saying that, where we are in certain phases and certain areas of the strategic plan. Cezanne and I are going to try to work a little closer on filling out the larger packet that's in the strategic plan itself to try to keep track of that. And we'll do that here probably at the end of this month so that we have an idea. We can get that portion back out to you at the next meeting. It might take quite a while to go through. However, it's something that we can at least track our progress in certain areas on. Jack?
I think that's a good idea, and maybe we ought to be thinking about that as some of the program for the annual meeting.
Okay, Jack?
I want to add a comment. There's an action item under enhance that Cabana experience that needs our attention later in the meeting, right? So.
That's correct. Lanny?
I went through and compared this with the strategic plan and noticed that it's a bit more optimistic than reality. In most of the areas, there are some points that are significant early key items, especially related to community involvement. For example, we said that we would establish a new community safety project team under community well-being. And even though it's been over 6 months, I haven't heard anything about the project team being appointed. Same thing under cabana enhancement. We said there'd be a new project team there. Under rental reforms, our strategic plan does not talk about the CAPS team. It talks about a new rental project team. And again, to the best of my knowledge, none of those people have been appointed. And I think that those are all critical areas to be added. Under landscaping, we charge them with developing a long-term plan, starting with gathering expert advice. And to the best of my knowledge, nothing's been done in that area. So I think it's important. And if Susanna, if you'd send me a Word version of this, I'll send you back the areas that I think need to be included.
Okay, let's keep in mind, this is a 3 to 5 year plan.
Yes.
And we're not about to rush out and do everything this current year. And we have a new fiscal year coming up, a new program year, if you will, in March. So I think we've begun enough of these initiatives, but we will take it up in the EC meeting, and the EC can give us direction as to our pace with the plan. So Cezanne, if you'd put that on the agenda for the EC, we'll take it up there. Terry.
Yeah, based on what he has said, I think it's clear that our strategic plan is just in the beginning after having it been put into written form. And when we get to project teams and so forth, it's late in the day for us for this fiscal year, plus the fact that we're going to have a reconstituted board in March. For us to go ahead and start and have project teams in place with a board that's going to be leaving and in some shape or form may or may not be wise. I'm not sure which way to go on that.
Okay, carry on, Mark, please.
Seems that my report gets longer, even though I try to make it shorter. So anyways, for those of you out there watching, I don't know how many there are of you that don't have my report in front of you. It's a happy new year to everybody. And although COVID has changed the operations here on property dramatically, we look forward to the new normal. And hopefully by the midsummer, we can possibly begin to resume, some of the normal use of the facilities if things go the way that we hope. So we're just going to keep our fingers crossed. And in the meantime, we're just going to keep with what we've been doing and try to maintain the integrity of the systems as best we can.
Very good. Let me interject here for a minute, and I want to ask the board, how do you feel about this strategic plan feedback report that we have been doing for the last couple of months? Is this something that is helpful to you? Would you like us to continue that?
I think it's good.
I find it helpful. But I agree that we can't execute the whole plan in the next 35 days. So we have to keep mindful of the fact that, we maybe should look at it in smaller increments, maybe 6-month intervals or something like that, starting after the March board meeting. Things such as that.
Okay, very good. Hearing no negatives, I guess we'll continue with this format, and I hope it benefits you and it also serves as not to forget about our strategies along the way. So, sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Nope, not at all. Year end, I can tell you that we're working with the auditors and with Geraldine to finish up the year end, and we expect to complete an audit sometime right prior to the annual meeting in March. I know that everybody's received their annual meeting notice, and that that has the calendar that we're going to have to adhere to get to that point in March 25th. Anybody out there that knows of somebody that has not received that notice, please contact the office. We are working with them. Of course, all of our invoices and all of our paperwork here stashed in the office, and we've been dealing with that. Cezanne's been working closely along with myself to some degree with Geraldine We hope to have the auditors in here in February and then move through that. Projects, I can tell you that there's a myriad of projects that we started and we are trying to finish up. One is the front fence line in front of the condos in the front area along 41. We understand from our supplier, there was a shortage of aluminum in certain areas. He expects us to be installing in there by mid-February. As you know, pickleball court number 3 is under construction. They have the fence posts put in, and those are going to be all cemented in. We're looking also at maybe looking at some kind of a netting, almost like a, if you want to call it a range netting, to go maybe a few feet higher over the maintenance fence and along the fence borderlining the church, so that the balls don't keep flying over onto Alan's backyard, so to speak. He's being asked 3 and 4 or 5 times in the morning to throw the balls back over the fence. So we're going to be looking into maybe a little bit of 6-foot-high range netting to assist us in that endeavor. The cabana.
A couple of questions on that. Couple of questions. I was concerned with the number of people I saw in there with that construction. Did we make sure we had a safe situation? I was kind of surprised we were allowing people still in there with that construction and where some of that heavy equipment.
They have access to it through the side. And as far as I know, Jack, you've been down there. Paul, you've probably been down there. How's the traffic there with the construction?
And the other thing, which I'd mentioned before, but it become more critical now, we need some kind of egress now since people will be parking in the lot. And other day there were people, a group of about 10 that came through in between the tennis courts and kind of I mean, they were on the path, but we somehow need some method to get from the parking lot to the to those pickleball courts now that doesn't really interrupt the tennis. Maybe on the side, a path or something. We need to think about that. I'd mentioned that about a year ago, I think.
I think Alan is working now on trying to look at a sort of a pathway roadway on the side of Court 4 along those along the sidewalk there to allow some egress and some traffic movement there. We can always just direct people and maybe have pickleball just help us out by telling everybody to, use the sidewalks down there while tennis is in play.
Yeah. I mean, the sidewalk would work okay if they just, but
I think that's the cleanest solution to this issue. It's not any longer really than moving down between courts 4 and 5. So it may be a few steps longer, but it isn't that significant. So I think we'll just encourage people to use the sidewalks.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
All right, the cabana oven, which is in your packet, is something that we're anticipating a positive feedback from. However, it may be a blessing and a curse. We're a little nervous that if it is very successful, then it'd be like having 30 or 40 people come over to your house and telling you to start making snack food and pizzas out of your oven in your kitchen and do it right now. So it may be something that we're going to have to work ourselves into. We just look forward to, if this does get approved, to getting it in probably within the next month or so, and then beginning to assist us in these after hours from, after 4 o'clock when the kitchen upstairs is closed. We can provide some modicum of snack foods for the patrons that wish to stay down there.
Well, this problem is like having too much fun.
Yeah, we're also looking into a possibility of working with Alan on the lighting down at the pool. I talked to another couple of managers about opening their pool area cabanas for outside dining, but doing it at night. And how did they manage the pool with the Board of Health, as far as it revolves around your license for dawn to dusk, and how do they have nighttime swimming? And they said that they had to change the lighting, and the lumens had to be improved to a specific capacity. And they received a new permit and license for opening their pool, so that people, if they did want to continue to swim after hours, after dusk, that they'd be able to do that. That may be something for us to look into, so that people who do want to utilize the pool and its surrounds actually could jump in the water and be able to swim until say 9 o'clock or whenever things close down. So that's something to look at as we move through this process. Street lights. I can tell you, we've talked to 3 different purveyors. I can only say that if you're here in the clubhouse parking lot and you walk out of the club down towards the tennis courts, past the mailbox, and you look straight across at the pole that's in the parking lot, you can see how it's deteriorated. The cast aluminum is starting to rot in all of the green street lights throughout the neighborhoods. And there are some that are only held in by 1 or 2 bolts instead of the 4, just simply because the casting has started to just deteriorate over the 20+ years of being in this salt air. So I'm trying to look at some new poles, trying to get a little more modern, all LED fixtures. I'm gone to 3 or 4 different companies. We have about 150,000 in reserves, give or take. We have 71 poles to replace. We're looking at trying to get that within budget. And before we get too far, I will go ahead and make sure that all of you get to see what the poles look like, whether or not you want them to be changed to a black color to kind of formalize the black entrance and move down the median, or we keep with the green. I'm looking at both of those models. So more to come as that goes down the road and I get some better prices and some looks about, because I don't want to change it up too much, but I just want them to modernize and also fit within the budget. Sidewalks. As you all know, if you've been walking around here, the sidewalks are a difficulty with the tree roots that you have. Those of you that have walked from the guardhouse down to the condos, however, have all walked on paver sidewalks. There are no concrete sidewalks going down there, and all in through the condominium, it's paver sidewalk. And anytime there's something gone wrong, we just lift the pavers out, cut it, put it back, and it's perfect again. It's something that Alan has suggested and that maybe we ought to look at it. I'm not saying we go ahead and do that, instantaneously, but maybe we could start in one specific area and start to move forward with that. Just time has created a lot of issues within the neighborhoods, the main roadways, the back lawn area, even the tennis court sidewalks as you move around down by the tot lot. There's just different areas where they've been going up and down. If we could get some ideas on, Alan can tear out the sidewalks, and if we could put in pavers, that might be a better long-term solution for the community. I can only say that there's probably one wrinkle in that, and that is if you are, you have a painted sidewalk in your driveway and you have some pavers, going out on one side or another. And if it's done over time, I imagine that the paver colors are going to change from time to time. So there may be some issues as far as continuity, but it's something we should probably just look into in various areas. Otherwise, you're going to see these sidewalks up and down the streets torn up and re-poured consistently over time, simply because of the oak trees. The back patio, as I said, behind the courtyard, where all of that is. And Lanny, yes, I got your email on possibilities back there, but Alan is concerned, like he said, it may cost us $20,000 to put pavers down in there after I rip up the concrete, but that's a lot less than the lawsuit from a slip and fall or somebody saying that we were negligent, knowing that we had a problem back there. So he's very concerned. And I thought that we should probably look at this. I'd like to get a couple of formalized quotes for repaving those areas that are concrete today, and maybe looking at squaring it off a little bit all the way up to the sidewalk that's running between the tennis courts. Maybe even looking at continuing doing that area in pavers as well. I think it's probably going to be about $20,000 to $30,000 maximum for everything, but it may give us a building block to move forward with the future. Even if we do decide to put in some form of other structure or building or use, the pavers are much easier to deal with as far as taking care of the surrounds, whether or not it can fit within a certain footprint or whatnot. That's an easier way to go than trying to cut or tear up concrete and trying to get it to match all in. So I'll be bringing you some more information on that probably at this next board meeting. Last I've got on my list is the bocce. The bocce folks have asked for pergolas, slat topped pergolas. The most common one that we have in the community is at the entrance to Deer Creek on the left-hand side. As you enter, and it's a column structure with wooden slats on top that create some shade. They're asking for these pergolas to be placed at the ends of the courts on the north side, which would be the closest side to the clubhouse. They're asking them to be about 10 foot in depth and probably enough to cover the courts, which is probably around 16 or 18 feet on each side and kind of overshadowing part of the court itself. And this way it could shield and have the people under that without being a, if you want to call it another canopy or shade shelter like we have out there on the tennis courts. It'd be a little more easy to see through and wouldn't be so blocking. It'd keep the sight lines a little open. I was going to go ahead and probably get some drawings from David Poorman just to get an idea. I think he'd probably almost on a pro bono basis give us some at least sketches to look at, and I can bring those back to you folks and just so you can get an idea not only from a bird's eye view from the top where they'd lay, but from an elevational standpoint of what they'd look like if you were looking, out of the back part of the clubhouse from the veranda level. So once I get some of that together, I'll get back to you on those. That is the end of my report.
Let's, on these pergolas, let's keep this in mind if you think it's wise. 10 feet is not a lot of area, number one. So how many people will be shaded is a question. A pergola, what's that? 4 players? Okay, that makes more sense because it's not a very large structure. And of course it's open, so some light will get through. So how much shade it will offer is another question. And the layout is critical when you're talking about pergolas. So I guess that's my concern, that they aesthetically blend in the area. Number one, and number two, does not take up so much space that we can't use that area for other functions. That's my concern. I don't know if anyone else has others.
Well, one of my thoughts would be, I've never hardly seen anyone on those courts in the off season when it's hottest. And my question, do we even need more shade? They've already got that one shaded area, is whether or not that's something that's in balance. Do we really need? And there's some negatives on it also. But in the hottest part of the summer, I don't think I've ever seen bocce used.
Lanny.
The other thing to consider is the direction of the sun. A pergola
Yeah, exactly.
over the northern end is not going to put any sun anywhere near the court. It would have to be really overlapping the court in the winter when the sun is as low as it is. So the practicality, I mean, it doesn't seem like they're going to get what they think they're getting. I don't know if David can include that sun angle and where shade would be in his drawings, but I think that, for just an example is to look at our new, Lindia, tell me the name of it, the shade structure.
Poolside pavilion.
The new poolside pavilion and how much sun comes into that, but that essentially it's going to be a similar alignment and only provide shade over the grass.
Yeah, but
Well, that's
their issue is
exactly
morning
my,
sun.
that's exactly my point, that it needs to be laid out properly because light does come through. And if it's on the north end, that's exactly the wrong side for a pergola. It ideally should be on the south side if you want to block the sun. But anyway,
they're
let's leave that to Foreman and whoever else. Jack, you want to comment?
Well, I just think they're looking for morning sun protection in February and March. That's what they're most concerned with. That's when the bocce league is most active. And that's when people are standing out there in the hot sun.
Yeah, and still,
So that's from the east.
the angle of the sun, it's not going to help them a whole lot on
Well,
the
I'm
north
just
side.
telling you, okay. Let David figure it out.
Chat.
I think we need to start with I think we need to forget about, for the time being, the word pergola. I think what we need to start with is what's the objective? And whatever the objective is, then we can look into how to fulfill it. I'm not so sure that it's a pergola.
Yeah, Chap, I think you make a good point. I think if what they want is morning shade, then something over there on the southeast corner is where it would go. And
Right. So
it
what's the
wouldn't block the
objective?
view from the veranda. So that's kind of a good spot.
Okay, so Mark, you could, let's hear from Lindia. And then Mark, if you take down these comments from the board, you could follow up with the bocce crew and Foreman. But Lindia, let's hear from you.
I think that the bocce committee was looking for something that looked nice and provided shade. So they didn't want any more green canopies. And I tend to agree with them that if you're going to do something for shade, if it does give you shade and it's in the right spot, the pergola would look very nice.
Yeah, I agree with that. Any other comment? Let's move along then. Mark, does that conclude your report?
Yes, it does.
You did pretty well this month.
I tried.
I should say the board did pretty well.
Yeah,
this
we
month.
didn't interrupt.
Yeah. Okay, activities report, Lindia, please.
Okay. Past events. Winner of the door decorating contest were first place, 1425 Serenity Circle, and second place, 1320 Sweetwater Cove. Congratulations to both of the contestants.
Could we have names instead of addresses?
I wish I had them, but I do not.
Okay.
Mark, do you?
I can get them probably. I don't have them now.
Yes. Thank you. If you get them, we'd like to know that. New Year's Eve was a smaller group than usual, but all thoroughly enjoyed a lovely dinner and nice musical entertainment. As usual, Nicole did a great job with decorating, and our dining room and bar looked great as revelers welcomed the new year, and we're more than glad to kick 2020 down the road.
At a social distance.
Yes, they were socially distanced, and they had a very good time.
What was the number of people, roughly?
What was it?
40, I think it was like 48 or 46.
Hello.
46. The book club met January 19th at 1 o'clock. It was held in the veranda. The next book club is February 16th at 1 o'clock, the place to be announced. The book is the last painting of Sarah DeVoe by Dominic Smith. Girls' Night Out was January 13th. And 8 ladies were introduced to some easy exercises. A health snack and drinks were available.
Were they healthy drinks?
No, but they were good. January 27th, the Bocce members and friends enjoyed a welcome back party. This year it was a luncheon and the Bocce draw was held in the courtyard. Looking ahead, January 29th, poolside extended cabana hours and music by Jason DeSimone, 5:30 to 7:30. February 1st, Elton John and Billy Joel tribute, or Bill Joel as I wrote, but it's Billy Joel tribute, scheduled for the courtyard. Chairs and box lunches will be available with your ticket. A choice of the box lunches or just come see the concert is available. You must let Nicole know when you'll make your reservation. So there'll be 2 different prices. I think we're nearly filled up and there may be a waiting list.
Yes, there is. And that's really due to the configuration of making sure that the chairs are socially distant throughout the back lawn area. We did not do tables. We're only doing chairs in order to accommodate more. But in order to get everybody 6 feet, you and your partner, even if you wanted to sit with another 2 or 3 couples, still have to be distanced. So that really makes things spread out and it really cuts out a lot of the usable space of the lawn area. So
Right.
Nicole's doing a pretty good job of making sure there's a map. All the chairs will be out there. They'll all be numbered so that when people come up, they'll actually pick up their index card with their number on it, whether or not they've decided to buy some food or not. And then they'll go to their chairs. Our staff will deliver the food to those people who have ordered it ahead of time. And that way everything is as distanced as possible with it being in the open air out back.
I do know
Good
that
job.
she's going to do some in pods, like people that go around together and sit together. If you have 6 people that you want to sit together, that you go around with, that you're comfortable with, those could be in a pod.
Yeah,
Okay.
good job. We appreciate your attention to that.
February 7th is the Super Bowl viewing poolside. It's at the Cabana Poolside Pavilion. It begins at 5 o'clock. I think the food is about 6:30. It's going to be totally outside. And that's it. That's all I have on that.
Is that, Lenny,
a-
is a question, is that a reservation or you just go if you want to go? Or it's just going to be open?
What we're asking for is reservations to make sure that we take care of the number of people that we have seats for. We do not want a crowded pool deck. We are trying to make sure that it's as
But my-
socially distanced
But
as
my
possible.
question is about the food. Do you reserve the food or do you just, is it
The food,
available?
no, not really, because the food is really all we're serving that night, just like we have in the past, is sloppy joes. They're going to be available behind the bar. If you want them, you can go and
Oh,
grab
okay.
a sloppy joe. But really, this is had it been for those of you out there, had it been the Bills and the Packers, I think I would have been a lot more concerned with the number of people that would be wanting to watch TV that night. However, even though it's our local Buccaneers, go Bucks, and Kansas City, I think that there are some people who are going to be interested in being down there. I think a lot of people, because of the weather, it may be a beautiful day. If not, by halftime, I imagine half the people will all be gone and back to their own homes to watch their own TVs. So, but we are going to have everything spread out. We're not going to have the TVs under the pavilion as the only TVs. We're going to make sure that there's TVs under the shade shelter, under the bar, under the pavilion, and also at the other end of the pool deck, so that we can keep people completely apart from each other and not clustered up trying to stare at one or two of the TVs. So we're very conscious of that and trying to make it It's really not a Super Bowl party. It really is just an extended hours of the cabana, and the TVs will be on for people who want to come down and watch.
Right. And you know, in the past, we used to make people leave the pool area that were there to sun and swim, and we'd have these get-togethers. But now we don't ask them, so there are going to be people there still swimming, and there's not much we can do about that. February 10th is Girls' Night Out, Mahjong Round Robin. It's limited numbers with lunch. The masks are required. It's all outside on the veranda and the courtyard, and there's a maximum number of 32. February 14th is Valentine's Day with entertainment by Jason DeSimone. Always a special event at our club. There will be dinner, of course. February 15th, President's Day poolside with entertainment by Ron Rutz. And the Legacy event will be held this year with a different twist. And I originally wrote, please stay tuned for announcements, but I have further announcements. This year's event is a raffle. 400 tickets will be sold, $50 a piece. The winning prize, the prize for the winning ticket, is $5,000. So far, over 40 tickets have been sold. Many or most of them by super salesman Jim Moxley. Tickets are selling fast, so please see Jim Moxley, Lynn Frankel, Lauren Gennaro, Pat Swallen, or Cheryl Chase. There may be more selling, and they will be selling at different events. The state of Florida will match our contribution. Friday curbside dining continues, and the menus have been fabulous. Cabana hours are Tuesday through Sunday, 11 to 4, weather permitting. Extended cabana hours will continue with announcements on our website. Please check the website. The next activity meeting is February 3rd at 10 o'clock. That's it.
Okay. Since there are no other questions for Lindia, let's move to landscaping.
Okay. Well, I will move there. Why don't you, is there another report, and I'll find
Yeah,
out.
we could move to another report. Who's
I got
ready?
it. Somewhere. Okay.
I can read it for you if you want, Linda.
Would you?
Sure. The Landscape Committee meeting was held on January 14th at 9 o'clock in the morning. We did a review of the 2020 plantings. In Deer Creek, the Tibuchinas are not thriving in the island. They're doing okay in front of the signs, however. One yesterday, today, and tomorrow bush has bloomed, the other has not. The today, yesterday, and tomorrow bush, by the way, if you go by Deer Creek and you're driving by Deer Creek and you look to the right, it's the kind of large bush that has the purple and white flowers. It looks great. The same one that's on the other end of the island doesn't have a flower on it.
Terrible.
Well, maybe it'll be there tomorrow.
So.
I
Anyways,
think it was there yesterday, some of them.
they're going to consider some new and different plantings in 2021 to just either enhance that or put some different place, replace the Tibuchinas. In the Wildcat Cove pool area, the Calusa needs to be trimmed, which it has been since then, interfering with the powder puff trees. That area looks great in the back there. We pulled out the yellow alamanda and put in the snow bush on the right-hand side to see if it would work. And the agnopanthus, which are the little green leafy looking items in the middle, really don't seem to be doing good. We think it's because of the water that comes down the hill after rain and after the irrigation that may be creating some of that. So an interim step, we're going to put some annuals in there And then we're going to try to look at some other plants that would probably thrive a little better in that area. In the median, as you enter Wildcat Cove and the entrance island there, we have portulaca in there that we're going to try to see if it could be a ground cover. That didn't work out so well, so we're going to have to look at a different type. We're trying to look at ways to put items in the median besides plants and mulch. If we could do plants and ground cover, such as they do out on the medians on 41, for instance, where you see the low ground cover, whether it's dune daisy or peanut or some of the others, we're going to try to see if we can get something that'll thrive here in Sterling Oaks, and so that we can start to cut down the amount of mulch in some of these planting beds. The condo hedge line, if anybody has been down on along the condominiums along 41, the copper leaf that was put in there, that copper leaf, it looks great, and I think it really is a great look and feel. And I haven't heard, since I haven't heard anything from the condominiums or from John or anything, I think everything must be fine down there. So good to see. The powder puff trees by the tennis courts, which are the 3 of them that were planted there, all seem to be blooming and doing great. They are going to trim them up just a little bit and then try to straighten them up because the winds kind of mushed them over a little bit, and then we're going to try to pull them all straightened back out. But they do seem to be looking pretty good, and that's a great addition in that area. The pots in the pool island, all those annuals checked out, and we're replacing those around the edges of the pool. We'll try to get those done. I think they're going to be doing them either this week. If they didn't do them last week, I didn't get a chance to look at them the other day, but they should be redone here very shortly. I have to let you know that every Monday I drive around with Juan and Diego and Billy Shell, who's the supervisor. We go throughout the entire community, and any of those, I guess you want to call it, emails that I get from folks out there in the community that say, I've got problems behind my house, or I've got issues with my lawn, or I've called Brightview and I can't seem to get something done. We go to those houses with these guys and actually try to understand what the problems are. This has really helped out. We've actually met several homeowners who were surprised to see all of us there looking at their concerns. So they seem to be working on trying to get a better relationship with everybody. You know, once again, I try to tell the population at large that they're sort of like the Summit broadband system. It's there. It gives you cable and internet. It may not be great all the time. And then when you need something to get fixed, it doesn't happen right away. The landscaping company kind of falls in that bulk service network at the same time sometimes. But they do seem to be trying. I do get quality assessment reports. They are still working on irrigation breaks throughout the community. We just had recently one down in Wildcat around 14886, you know, where one of the 4-inch main lines that runs around the loop in Wildcat, one of the valves cracked and water's down there. And it really, we don't know how long it's been leaking. We just know that when it gets to a point where the water starts coming up through the ground or the ground is soggy, that we have a problem down below. And this kind of brings up something else that I need to segue to, and that's unfortunately, and I know that I'm going to get off all this. Let's go to the main lines that are 8 inches round, and they're going underneath the streets in the condominiums. So this is an 8-inch PVC line that carries water all around the condominiums. And then off of those big lines branch the other lines that go into the buildings. Those lines are underneath our existing master association roadways. Even though the water that's being used by the condominiums is their responsibility, I don't know whether or not the actual line that is in the ground that is in the master association, you want to call it easement, underneath the main roads, is really their concern or their cost issue, because as we found in the past, there are times when those main lines at the junctions to the various condominium buildings have started to leak. We don't know about it for a long, long time. It's really not their fault, and it's not really our fault. It's just the aging of the system. So the cost of the repair maybe is a master association, but it seems that the condominium complex gets saddled with the cost of the water usage, when truly it's really just a leaking water. It really doesn't have to do with sewer and water. They shouldn't be charged the amount that they're getting charged for on their meter. It's just something that we have to kind of get our heads wrapped around and figure out the best way to do it. I don't know whether or not we can figure out how to do a leak detection system. One of the theories was that we have a day in, let's say, July, when there's hardly anybody here. We tell everybody, on this day, we want you to shut your water off in your house. Don't run any showers, baths, and anything. And then we go to the meter and see whether or not there's any massive usage, so that we can get an understanding. Is there something running that we're not really knowledgeable about? Whether or not that would really work or not, I don't know, but it's something that we probably just want to figure out how to deal with at some point in time. So I
Mark,
apologize.
I'm
Hey, Chad.
confused. I'm confused now. We've shifted the discussion from irrigation water to potable water, correct?
Yes, but it still has to do with the lines that are under the ground that we find
Okay,
that are
but
20
we're
years
talking
old.
about potable water right now,
Yes, you are.
right?
Yep.
All right, now, so let me, to get to my point, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
This potable water comes from Collier County, correct? Okay. If a main line broke that delivers potable water to my house,
Collier County.
who would fix that?
Well, Collier County would probably fix it if it was from the meter to the street. However, if
Right.
it was from the meter to your house, it'd be your responsibility.
Okay, so the answer is, if there's a problem with an 8-inch potable water pipe, that's Collier County's problem.
No, because it's all after the meter. The meter is actually at the standpipe right there where the mailboxes are, and it feeds the entire 300 units.
I'm still
Yeah, but-
confused,
But Collier
So,
County
Let's
normally
not I didn't want to raise this issue at this point in time. I realize.
well, you did.
there's discussion
You
point.
did.
All I'm saying is that the lines underneath the ground here at Sterling Oaks that are PVC in nature, that were put in the ground in 1996, 97, 98 to 2000, have a lot of, T's and valves, and they are starting to deteriorate over time. And you're seeing that in the cost of irrigation repair. I can only say that it's throughout the community, and we just have to be aware of it. So I'll go
So
back.
does this end your landscaping report?
No, it does not. I'm
Okay,
moving
let's
forward now.
wrap that up.
Suggestions for future projects. The parking lot on the Court 2 side of the clubhouse. This is down where if you're going to go down and park by Court 1 and 2, those islands in the parking lot that don't have any trees and are bare, those are to be done this year.
Andrea,
We have the quotes from last year.
Okay, I'm in a meeting right now.
Outside on 41, moving along the borders on the outside there, they're going to be taking a look at that. There's a lot of dead and dying material out there, and probably looking at trying to create some long areas of just greenscape that is consistent and easy to maintain, rather than the pockets of various plants that have been put out there over the many years. There's an island in the preserve neighborhood that trees were removed. There was trees removed out of there that did not belong in there. The owner that lives next door is very upset about it, but we need to go in there and take care of that and make sure that it looks
It looks bad.
contiguous with the other median islands that are in that neighborhood.
Okay, there were a couple dead palms in there.
Yep.
Yeah, bad.
Condo entrance on the mailbox side needs to be updated, and several hedge lines need to be looked at throughout the community as they border those white fences. We're going to look at areas between Versal and to the north of us. There's a couple of areas by building 1315 behind there where the power poles and the power lines are. We're going to see if we can start to fill in some of that so that they have some privacy like the rest of the people in that area do. And then also take a look at All Seasons and Sterling Oaks border as well. We're going to have another physical review of the community with the entire committee, I think on February 9th or 4th.
February
And,
4th, I think it.
4th, and we'll drive
Yep.
around and take a look at these items to prioritize them.
Yep.
And that,
Chap has a question.
and
No,
that,
it's not a question, it's just a suggestion. And
Yeah.
Cezanne can probably help me with this. I think the landscape committee needs to know how much money we segregated in the 2021 budget for landscaping. I can't remember. Do you remember, Cezanne?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I can look and I'll let Mark know.
I think that the landscaping budget for replacements in the 2021 budget was 50,000.
I
But
think
think
you're
that
right.
also-
That's
think
what I
that is-
remember.
That
Yeah.
included.
Yeah, that's
I
my
think that
recollection
included
too.
So many thousand for, sod that needed to be replaced or other items, that we do on a normal annual basis.
Well, all I'm saying is that the committee just should keep in mind approximately how much money they have to
Correct.
deal with all these wish lists. That's all.
Okay, we're getting, I see your hand, Lanny. We're getting
Okay.
through our committee reports and it's a pretty good pace. I'm going to wait for the treasurer's report just before old business. So we'll have Lanny's question and then we'll go to the communications committee report.
Carrie has a
Lanny?
question also. Mark, I just would like, for the last 3 years, we've asked for landscaping around the tennis courts and we keep being told it's going to happen next time. I'd like to be sure that that's added on the suggestions for future projects. We have a lot of people coming through there and it looks pretty bad.
Well, I
Like in
recall
in
the
the
latest report about those powder puff trees that Mark just inspected.
I'm talking
Yeah.
about within the property.
You mean in the corners and stuff by the courts?
Right, right,
In those areas there?
right. And,
Got
and
it.
by the big signboard, where, I mean, that's, a drawing place for, our homeowners and, nothing's happened in 3 or 4 years.
I'll make sure that the committee knows that and takes a look at it. Yes.
Thank you.
Terry Kraft.
Yes, I just wanted to mention, riding around the last couple of days on my bike, I noticed that there's some areas in the homeowners areas that the grass doesn't seem to be as green as it has been. Mark, do you have any indication that has been happening or any knowledge of that at all? Because here in the preserve, we're finding like 50% of our grass is turning to straw.
Well, I've asked them to bump up the irrigation in this colder weather. And with a couple of cold snaps in the 40s and 50s that we had 2 or 3 weeks ago, we did experience some die out, at least some slow growth. We did have put down a fertilization, and once I get this, get the water back up and running a little bit, and we get some temps, I think you're going to see everything green back up pretty quickly.
Well, that would be good to see. Thank you.
Okay, Jack, can we go to communications?
I don't have any reports from the communications committee.
You were asked to appoint a member.
Oh, I thought I would approve that. So if I I don't have the information. Do I have the information here in front of me?
Sure. So the communications committee would like to ask for the board to approve Andrew Chase to the committee.
Who?
Please,
You're,
Cheryl.
you're not on your
You
microphone.
lost your vocals.
What happened? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Now I can.
Sorry, maybe I'm covering up. The communications committee asked for the board to appoint Andrew Chase to the communications committee.
And Andy
No
Chase.
objections
okay.
with that recommendation.
So is that
I second.
a motion, Jack?
I move, yes.
Okay, Lanny seconds. Do we have any discussion further? If not, all in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? I see none. Unanimously approved. Thank you, Jack.
Okay.
Okay, with that, let's go to the treasurer's report. And from there, we'll go directly to old business, and we need to take the motion from the table. But first, I want to hear from the treasurer.
Paul, I also submitted 2 other reports.
I don't
Tennis
see that
and-
on the agenda.
Well, tennis and COVID reports were also submitted.
Okay, we will do that. I don't see them here on this agenda. Maybe I got an earlier agenda. I don't know, but we will
I don't-
cover that.
Okay,
So Chap, how about we hear from those 2 reports and then we'll go to you.
Whatever you want.
I'd like that. Go ahead, Lanny.
okay. I emailed everyone the tennis committee report, so you should have a copy. The tennis committee is chaired by Rick Sanders and met outdoors on January 22nd. First, the role of the communications committee, the executive committee does not need to remind the tennis committee that it's advisory. They know that. All recommendations from the tennis committee have the approval of the director of tennis before I bring them to the board for review. Regarding tennis membership, as of January 13th, tennis membership has increased from 300 to 338 members. 36, 30, gee, there's some errors here. 31% of the members are homeowners. We have 24 monthly members, and members have recruited many friends. Word of mouth continues to be our major recruitment effort. Outreach to new apartment complexes was not successful. Both non-resident members of the tennis committee have resigned, so I move that we add Paula Kelly and Joe Pisano to the tennis committee.
Second.
May I have-
Second.
Okay, Chap has the second. Do we have any discussion? Okay, does Paul Barris approve?
Yes,
Okay, let's, if there are no questions, all in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, it looks like we have unanimous approval. Thank you for those recommendations and welcome them aboard for the board, please.
I'll do that. Upcoming events include plans for a free beginner clinic for homeowners in February. We don't have a date yet for that. There's 2 events scheduled for the FGCU scholarship fundraisers. First, there'll be a Pro-Am tournament where members will be teamed up with local pros. That will be February 20th or 27th. A staff member tournament is planned. Tentative date there is March 19 or 21. The North Naples Open Tournament will include NTPR divisions this year, and its dates are tentatively are March 6th to 14th. And a tennis warm-up and stretch workshop will be taught by Laura Morgan, and that date is to be determined. I'm sorry. Okay, next is pop tennis. At the request of members, the tennis committee discussed adding pop tennis play to our afternoon and evening program. For those of you not aware, pop tennis is played on clay courts in an even smaller area using paddles and decompressed balls. It is desired by those who can't play real tennis anymore, but would like to get back on the softer, hard-true courts because they are friendlier to their old legs and they can't cover a real tennis court anymore. The tennis chair has responded to the requesters regarding some parameters that the committee feels would be appropriate. And I'll bring this to the board if the requesters want to proceed.
How does Paul Barris feel about it?
He is open based on the parameters that he and the tennis committee together worked on. We don't know if how the requesters are going to respond to that, however. But essentially, they're going to have to be just like other tennis members and wear the right shoes, etc.
Let's go to Lindia, then Terry.
I was just going to say, would that be the same tennis membership prices and everything?
Well, because they're looking at evening play, it would be an Oaks membership. So it would be the greatly reduced price. And they'd be able to play in the evening or under the lights, etc. Terry?
Yeah, how many Oaks memberships do we have now?
I'd have to look up to be sure, but I think there's 5, maybe 6.
And they start from 3:30 on up, right?
3 o'clock, but only after the leagues. The leagues have priority over Oaks memberships, and on weekends it's noon.
Okay, carry on, Lanny.
Next, COVID management. Many tennis players are following the new highly recommended precautions. The tennis committee is committed to improving preventive actions as needed in order to keep the courts open safely. I've noted the recommendations that we approved back on November 19th and have noted that they have not been included in our official COVID management plan. So I would like those and any additional ones to be added. When I've asked, it hasn't happened. So I'd like the board to, I move that all recently approved changes be added to the official COVID management change and that it's posted on the website, that all changes that apply beyond tennis should also be highlighted in the FYI news.
I'll second it.
Okay, Michael seconds. Do we have discussion?
Clarify the motion. Clarify the motion.
The motion is just to be sure all the things that the board passes gets put in our COVID management plan. That hasn't happened for the things we passed in November and December.
Why do we need a motion for that?
Well, because when I've asked for it, it hasn't happened. So I figured if the board asks for it, it'll happen.
Well, I don't think we need a motion.
Well, no one's told me why they won't update it, so I don't know.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and it's seconded. Do we have further discussion?
Can Paul Barris do this?
No, it's not. It's not a tennis document. It's a club document. Paul can't update. The Cezanne manages this document.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the vote signify by raising your hand. Okay, do you have it, Cezanne?
You're asked who that doesn't approve, please.
Did you get all the ayes?
Yes, is there any opposed?
Any opposed? Any abstain?
Abstain.
I abstain.
3 abstain.
I see no reason for this.
Me either. That's the reason.
Okay, motion carries.
I have one last motion. There's a current rule that applies to bocce, cards, games, pickleball, and tennis that states players should leave the property following play, not congregate on the court benches, courts, or public areas. We want to change this to do not congregate closer than 6 feet apart before, during, or after play. When others are waiting, exit your court or other play area quickly. So I move that we make that substitution. Do you want me to
Okay.
read it again?
And this is a recommendation.
No, it's a mandatory precaution.
What?
Chat.
Well,
Well,
I
let's
guess
get,
we have-
let's get it. Is that a second?
Yeah, I'll second it so we can discuss it.
Okay. Do you have a question?
I just
Yeah.
say, I think it's a good idea. I've noticed particularly at Bocce, there seems to be an awful lot of, there seem to be a lot of people congregating, either after they played or waiting to play. I don't know, but there's an awful lot of people congregating there that I don't think are observing the social distance rules. So I think this is a good thing.
Mark,
Oh,
If it is a board mandated policy, how are we going to police it and enforce it?
right.
Precisely.
Well,
Right.
I think I can't answer that. I think we should be striving for this. And unfortunately, if people don't want to comply, they don't want to comply because there's no way to police it.
So we can emphasize it again in a Sterling Oaks bulletin to the membership. that
Well,
this is-
whatever, but I think
I
there's
mean,
a small
you know,
problem.
I don't see revising the motion is going to have any, I mean, you can revise the motion, but you don't have any police authority, so.
Lindia,
I think it should be a strong recommendation. And that's it.
any other discussion? I'll make a comment. I think the tennis players have been pretty good members. I think they adhere to our recommendations. I don't think they'll have a problem with this. And I agree with all of you. I don't think we're in the position of policing all of this, but I think if we have something in place, at least we're taking on some leadership here in terms of what we feel is healthiest for our members. So I see this as an innocuous thing. People are going to do what they like, but we're not going to police it. So I recommend we move along and approve this. Lanny,
Regarding the 6 feet separation, we already have that twice in the policy, so it's not anything new or different there. It actually is making it clearer that you don't have to leave right away, but you just need to stay 6 feet apart. So it's just making the rule more functional based on what people are doing. At one point.
Again, I don't think the membership is going to have a problem with this, and I don't think we need to debate this. Let's vote. If there's no other discussion, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Okay. You got it, Cezanne?
I
All those,
generally look for the lesser, so Lindia and Terry, I didn't see your hands on there.
so those who are not in favor, raise your hand. Okay, Lindia. Terry, did you abstain or are you voting nay?
I'm voting yes. I vote yes, it's all right.
Okay. All right.
That
Are we-
concludes my tennis report.
Okay, thank you.
May I move to the COVID report?
Yes, please.
Okay, the good news is that many Southwest Florida seniors have received at least one dose of COVID vaccine and more should be getting them soon. Also, local infection rates are lower now than they were earlier this month. The bad news is, however, that they still remain in the red zone, too high for any indoor activities. Double masking is now being recommended on a national basis, which is certainly going to have some implications. Locally, new cases and new deaths are higher than last month. Lee County deaths actually doubled, and in the the last week, there were 49 deaths in Lee County. So we're now seeing the deaths that came from the spike after Christmas. Hopefully those deaths will go down along to mirror the infection rates now. Other bad news is obtaining vaccine appointments has been frustratingly difficult. And transmission has now been documented to occur with close contact for less than 15 minutes. If you didn't see that, that was a study done by CDC and the National Football League that makes us more concerned about short-term exposures within 6 feet. The other bad news is mutant variants are in Florida. They're more contagious and they may be more deadly. The definitive data on that isn't in, but they're definitely more contagious. The other news is that precautions are likely to be needed for many more months. And if we do not achieve herd immunity before the fall, infections will increase again, and as people spend more time indoors, and we may be looking at the same precautions a year from now. So any sense that this is going to be gone soon doesn't exist. I gave you details on Collier County and the zip codes if you're interested, as well as the resources. My recommendations are again that pandemic fatigue is not a sufficient reason to stop public health measures. This is not the right time to be doing anything indoors or with large groups. We need to socialize outside and in groups of less than 10. Specifically, I was very concerned when the Mahjong tournament was initially planned to be inside near open doors. I understand that event has been moved totally outdoors now, which I congratulate. It's still going to be important because of the round robin and close contact nature of this, that all participants are aware that if anyone gets sick within 2 weeks after the event, everyone's going to have to quarantine for 2 weeks. That wearing masks does not prevent the necessity for quarantining. And I've asked that participants be informed of that. I think it's critical that we comply with the Collier County mask rule and require masks when people are indoors and they're not eating or drinking. I understand at the New Year's party that the dancers on the dance floor were in very close contact and were not wearing masks. And I move that that our staff comply with the Collier County mask mandate and require people indoors when they're not eating or drinking to wear a mask. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, do we have discussion? Jack?
What's
What's different from what we have now? I mean, isn't
Once
that
again-
standard protocol?
Well, apparently no one told anyone that they couldn't be on the dance floor without a mask.
But us passing another motion will do nothing. Okay.
Also, the Collier County mask mandate doesn't seem to apply when you're in a restaurant, a local restaurant, whether you're inside or outside. The mask mandate does not seem to apply that when you pick up your glass, you have to put your mask on, off, and drink, and then put it back on again. That doesn't seem to be the case. How are the staff, which do wear masks when they're doing everything, to tell you folks, all of you folks that are out there, that you're not complying with the board's decisions on policy and that you need to do this immediately, and they tell us to go, you know what are we supposed to do? Make note of it, send it to you, write a letter, and then go through this? I can only tell you that your recommendations are probably a good, solid thing to do, and I think that the more that we can do to keep the safety protocols in place is wonderful. But to become the police, to try and batten down the hatches to some of these people who do not feel the same way as you do, that is a very difficult position to put our staff in. I can tell you, we feel very uncomfortable going to people who specifically do not agree with those mandates. And we ask them politely, and they tell us to, thank you very much. We're going to do what we want to do. And we can't sit there and say, then I need you to leave the premises, because the board has decided that if you're not, don't have a beer up to your lips or a fork in your face, you're going to have to leave if you don't have your mask on. That just doesn't seem, I guess it just is, it places us in a very difficult position. And I can only say that if any of you have been out in the restaurants, straight up and down this area where there is a lot of people in town, our population in town here has probably at least doubled over the past 6 months. I can only imagine that has something to do with the numbers as well. But I'm not in a position as general manager to try and tell my staff to police these individuals. Other than that, you can tell as a board, you could mandate that there's no longer any services available to the community that have to deal with inside food and beverage operations or food and beverage operations at the pool. And then we can shut this place down, and then that'll take care of it. But I don't think that's where you want to go. I just don't think you have the understanding that it's difficult for us to stand there with a whip and a cattle prod to try to tell some of these people who definitively do not feel the same way as you do, even though you're trying to do the right thing for the rest of the community.
Okay.
I agree with.
Cezanne, would you read the motion back? Because I think we have two things going on here. I think your intent is not reflected in the motion. And I think the motion that's currently on the floor is already in place. So Cezanne, would you read the motion?
I'm trying to find my word document. Motion that I understood was a motion was made to require masks to be worn indoors when not eating or drinking.
So that's already in effect.
The Collier County executive orders state that a mask is required when you cannot maintain a 6-foot social distancing. So if we're sitting at our desks, we don't need to wear a mask, and that's in effect. When we get up to help somebody or help a member and we are within 6 feet of another individual, we put a mask on. And just like everybody else that enters the clubhouse generally have masks unless they're maintaining a 6-foot social distancing, as the Collier County's executive orders.
Okay, Jack, and then Lanny.
Well, and I think we're back to trying to become a police state for things that don't need policing. People are here, they know what the rules are. If they choose to violate the rules, Mark's staff can't be the Gestapo, because we'll lose all the service people we have in this club if we force them to go up to people and say, do this or else, because they're gonna get accosted and the staff will leave, never mind the people.
Lanny.
I'd like to re-clarify and restate my motion. I move that we clarify for members that masks must be worn when you're not seated, eating and drinking within the clubhouse. Specifically, the dance floor requires masks. If you want to dance, you have to wear a mask. That's the end of the motion. My comment is homeowners can be informed that that is their option. And I'm not talking about, masking in between sips of water. I mean, I obviously agree that that's extreme. But our dance floor is very small. Homeowners have complained to me that they wanted me to address this problem of people dancing near them, not wearing a mask. And I totally agree that is not within the guidelines.
Now, did they speak to the people that were too close?
I don't know that.
Well, I mean, so if you see something, say something. What's the matter with that policy?
Hey, Lindia, you had your hand up. Lynn?
Again, if you go to any restaurant in Naples that I know of, when you sit down, you don't have to put your mask on that whole time through the dinner.
Right.
Secondly, that they're operating at 100% in the restaurants. And third, you're not going to have people 6 feet apart on a dance floor wearing a mask. That is just not going to happen. So you don't even require masks in the fitness for people 6 feet apart.
We do for an hour a day.
Well, okay, there's 24 hours. I mean,
Oh, I'd be happy to have it all day long.
I know, but you know why we
You
don't?
wouldn't support it.
No, we won't, because it's a personal responsibility to go in there. And I just think we're over-regulating. That's what I think. I think people
Lonnie, are
would
we
like to
talking,
pick.
are we down to a motion that basically says you got to wear a mask when you're dancing? Is that what
Correct.
this is
Yes.
boiling
Yeah.
down
And
to?
Basically,
6
yes.
feet apart.
Well,
Who's going to enforce it?
I,
Dance police.
We,
it could be clearly in.
Mary, you're in
everyone
charge of the
attending an
dance
event can be
police.
clearly informed, and it's much easier for people to say to each other, please put on your mask when the rule says they have to. We have no trouble making people either leave the gym or put on a mask when they come in during our mask hour. It is self-policed by the people using it, and any and everyone speaks to people who come in because it's clearly posted that that's the rule. So self-regulating works if there's a clear rule. If we don't have a clear, if it's unclear whether we think it's okay for people to be actively, physically exercising and breathing out tons of germ on a crowded dance floor, that I think it's a significant liability event for us, that
Don't they
we're
do that?
only
Don't
safe
they do that in the-
liability-wise when we are behaving appropriately and
But
taking
there's 8 people,
appropriate
there's 8
precautions.
people in the fitness area that are doing the same thing. They're on the treadmill, they're lifting weights, and they don't have to wear a mask. They're doing that, and it's every day. There's more people that use that fitness area without a mask that are breathing heavily. We're talking about, there was one event on New Year's Eve with 40 people here at the club, and we're talking about mask mandate for something that doesn't exist, yet we're allowing it to occur on a 18-hour a day, 7-day a week basis down in the fitness room.
Well,
I'm
the
not
fitness room is
clear as to
different because
why
they're
that
6
is
feet
so.
apart. They're spaced in the fitness room. That's the big difference. There's another dance coming up. That's why I'm bringing this up, so
There
that
you
people
go.
are protected at the next
coming.
dance.
has anybody been to a dance club in Naples?
yes, I have.
Okay, do
Everybody,
they wear
everybody,
masks?
I can answer it.
Good,
Go out dancing. I have seen no one wearing a mask anywhere
you.
there's dancing, including myself.
good,
And
thank you.
And to go to the next point, let's say that couple is a husband and wife. You're going to tell them they can't wear a mask. And everybody likes to pick out their own little thing. If we're talking about studies, Lanny, you pick a couple of studies. There's been a study in Europe, very detailed, not by US, that making masks and not the number of people that made masks and didn't make any difference. And if you want to look at the science, since we started wearing masks, the numbers have gone up. There's no indication from data, and you can argue all you want to, that the mask have made any difference, okay? Now, you can say it does, you can say it doesn't, but there's a million opinions. We can make recommendations. I agree with the recommendations, but I don't agree with any rules where we put ourselves in trying to enforce. We're not a police. We're not a police force. It's not our
Michael
job.
Hargraves.
It's not our job. We can support the recommendations by the government, but we should not pass any kind of laws or rules.
Okay, we got it. Let's go to Michael.
I'm just saying, Brownie, we've been working in healthcare. I've been working in healthcare for 50 years. We've been wearing masks. It's a proven fact that they prevent disease. Right now, if you go out and you look at the number of regular flu cases, the number of upper respiratory infections, they are way down as a result of wearing masks.
There are other studies that say the opposite. That's the problem, Micah. There's studies that prove anything you want to. And you got to remember, it's not all science. This is not an exact science.
Well,
okay.
I've been working with science for a long time around this issue, so I tend to agree with the science.
Well, I've read a number of studies myself. I have a PhD in engineering. I've read some of them. Some of them say yes, some say no. It's not a black and white. Ultimately, it is personal responsibility. I do the things that I think that'll keep me safe. I don't do things that are not.
What's the right thing to do here? And the right thing to do is to take the precautions that we have available to us.
Yeah, I said I agree with the recommendations. I don't have any problem, but I don't think we should put ourselves in a position of once you pass a rule, then as Mark said, we're required to enforce it. We can't enforce it. We're not a police state. We're not going to enforce it.
We have a responsibility to set an expectation.
We're not.
So I
can give a recommendation, but we do not have the power to enforce it. Unless you want to take it up, you want to go to the next dance and watch people, and you want to enforce, we'll let you be the enforcer at the next dance then.
Okay, let's see if we can't resolve this. It appears to me that the board doesn't want to be the policeman here. I think the motion on the floor is pretty direct and more finite than maybe it needs to be. It seems to me that if we as a board would suggest to our membership and residents that we are in coordination with Collier County rules and regulations and would hope that they would follow them, I think we would be in better stead than if we argue back and forth about how we're going to enforce these regulations specifically. This could go on forever as it has nationwide. So this discussion is going nowhere.
Right.
So I think we have some recommendations. We have a very good COVID plan. And I think we need to reinforce what we have already. Let's go to Terry and then Lanning.
Yes, I move that we table this motion so that we don't reinvent the wheel.
Okay, I need 2/3 majority and a second to table this.
I'll second.
Okay, I need, well, there's no discussion. We take a vote immediately. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand.
A question, where did the 2/3 majority come from tabling?
That's when you table a motion,
When you table a motion, you need 2/3 majority to arrest the
Okay,
motion.
okay.
So we need 6 votes.
So those in favor of the motion, raise your hand.
To table, right?
To table.
Yes.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Motion passes. Did you get that? Those not in favor of the motion, raise your hand. 2. Okay. All right. Let's think about this. We'll bring it up at the next board meeting, but I would implore you to think about how we want to exercise our leadership role here in expressing to the community what we feel is best for them and what's safest for them without putting all our people in a position where they may be in harm's way. So let's give that some thought. Terry.
Yes, when you table a motion, there's usually two outcomes. Once is it's never revisited again, and second, it may be brought up at another time. So that's how motions that are tabled are usually done.
Right, and it has to be placed on the table with a motion. Chap.
I'm looking for an out here. I see nothing wrong with a recommendation that we ask people to wear masks when they're dancing. I see nothing wrong with making that recommendation. We're not going to make it a rule. It's unenforceable. People aren't going to do it. But what's the problem with just saying we recommend that?
Well, that's what I was suggesting earlier, that we follow
I
Collier
agree.
County rules and we recommend that our members and residents do the same.
Yeah, remember, we're talking about masks on the dance floor. That's all we're
No.
talking about.
Could be a
Okay,
masquerade
at
dance.
any rate, this issue is tabled until the next meeting or whenever it does resurface, so let's move along.
All right.
Let's go to,
Paul, can I ask a question before we move on?
go ahead.
Lanny, were you referring to just inside dancing or were you talking about any dancing?
I was specifically referring to indoor dancing.
Thank you.
Okay,
Outdoor
let's,
dancing too close isn't good either, but indoor is my biggest concern. That's what homeowners have asked me to address.
Let me ask a question I'm not clear on here. Indoor versus outdoor is important. I'm still confused. I thought that New Year's party was going to be outdoors. I'm surprised. I thought our clubhouse was still closed to activities over 10 people. I was surprised to declare we had a party inside for 40. I thought that was going to be outdoors. How did that happen? I didn't think we ever approved indoor activities of that size.
We haven't.
So, I mean, even I'm with you on that, Lanny.
okay, let's go to chat and the treasurer's report.
Okay. I'm sorry it's not in your packet, but I sent you the email with the report, I think 2 days ago.
Got it.
So let me summarize and they'll lead us, you know where it's going to lead us. We have the preliminary numbers from Geraldine, our accountant, for the end of the year. The final numbers are highly unlikely to change anything that relates to the profit and loss statement. So don't get too hung up on preliminary numbers that are going to likely change a whole lot. All right, there's 6 things I want to tell you. First of all, what I refer to as the enterprise, the whole shebang. We lost on a P&L basis, we lost $11,500 last year. The budget was 0. The deviation is 0.28%, 0.3% deviation from budget. Single family homeowner landscaping had a loss of $56,000. Of course, that's $56,000 over budget. And Mark, correct me if I'm wrong. I think a good half of that had to do with budgeting for Leo and hiring Brightview. Right, Mark? Half of it, half of that loss. Condo water had a loss of $23,500. The budget, of course, was 0. Those 2 losses that I just referenced, the $56,000 for landscaping and the $23,500 for water, were offset by $94,000 positive variance in expenses, such as payroll, security, utilities, and pool expense. Tennis had a profit of $22,000, which was $12,000 better than budget. Food and beverage had a loss of $162,000, $21,000 worse than budget. And this number of around $160,000, I think, is something we've been pretty much expecting for months. So nothing really has changed. So the bottom line was when you look at all this and put it together, we lost $11,500 last year versus budget. That is my report.
Okay, any questions? Okay, let's move to condo water table motion. I need a motion to take it off the table.
Take it off the table so we can discuss it, or just
Yes,
For what?
to place
Can,
it?
can I make a new motion instead?
I don't think
No.
so.
Oh,
I don't know.
Well, if there is no motion, this can die.
Right. I just for information purposes, I tried to withdraw this at the end of last meeting, but I didn't have a chance. I don't want to bring this one up based on the information I've learned. So I'm not interested in untabling it.
Okay, so if we do not have a motion or a second, this motion dies. So with that, I want to make a point here, and then, well, let me make the point. We've had much discussion about this. It's gone back and forth for a month now. We had a long debate at the last meeting, so I'm hoping we can move this along. I know we've had a discussion at the EC meeting in depth with the treasurer and in conjunction with the finance committee. They have both made a recommendation, and I trust their counsel, and I'm going to vote accordingly on this issue. We've all heard a lot about it. So at this point, I'm going to ask Chap to place a motion on the table regarding this matter.
Well, I'm a little confused, Paul.
Yeah,
There's no motion to be made.
yeah.
We don't need
I mean,
to.
right now, without a
We're done.
motion, the board has
Okay.
accepted this without objection.
Yeah,
Okay,
There's nothing to vote on.
right.
all right, Lanny.
I also accept the 2020 situation. I move that starting January 2021, that condo and coach home owners will be charged the full amount for their excess water, trash, and sewer bills. Unless the subboards request otherwise, the condo and coach home owners will be billed annually for any excess early the following year. If the bills are lower than budgeted, they will be given a refund annually early the following year.
Oh,
Okay, do I have a second? I do not see a second. So if there is no second, the motion dies. Okay, let's go to new business, Mark Cabana Oven.
I would ask that somebody make a motion for us to purchase this Rationale XS oven for the not to exceed $15,000.
Move it.
Gary and Jack.
second.
Okay, any discussion? Browning.
I'm not familiar with this type of oven and what it does. I saw the little picture. I'm just a little surprised. I can get a top, anyway, $15,000 for basically not, explain to me why it's that much, okay?
Were you on the last board meeting, Brownie?
I haven't missed a board meeting.
Well, didn't we talk about this in the last meeting?
He may have had to leave early on
Oh,
that
yeah,
one.
all
But
right.
Mark, go ahead and explain to
I
Browning.
left at 4:30, whether or not that's early or not. Okay.
That's okay. Mark will explain.
So imagine, Brownie, that you, I bring 30 people to your house. And each of those 30 people want to have pizza, chicken wings. They want to have some French fries. They'd like to have some other items, and they ask you to put them and cook them in your oven. Your oven, you'd turn it up to 400 degrees and you'd start putting stuff in there. And then about half an hour later, you'd be able to give out some food. Some of it would be done in one fashion or another. What this oven is specifically designed to do is rapidly heat food in 3 different compartments with inside of it to be able to serve orders of that snack variety in about 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay, what's the technology? Is it microwave or
It's
iron?
a combi oven that is steam. It is also a high temperature air convection and super radiant. It does not use microwave technology. It uses superheated radiant technology along with steam. It's
All three ovens do? They have,
well, it's three compartments within the
yeah, but
oven.
all three compartments have the same capability?
Yes, and each one can cook differently. So you can put in chicken wings on the top, you can put in flatbread pizza in the middle, and you can put onion rings on the bottom and push the button. It'll cook each of those separately and then send them out and let you know when each one of them is done specifically. As I said at the very beginning in my report, it's sort of, this could be a blessing and a curse. It could be great for those people who want to come down there, get an order of chicken wings or some tenders or onion rings or whatever and be able to handle
Okay.
it. But if 30, 40
That's
or
enough.
50 of you all come down, it's gonna be a month.
That's enough, Mark. I'm satisfied. You're enough. It's just I didn't know. Okay.
Terry,
Yeah, Mark, will this be on wheels or will this be stationary?
It's gonna have to be stationary because it is plumbed in with specific electric and water and drainage requirements. It's a fairly sophisticated piece of equipment that's going to require it to be sitting in the back of the cabana. It does not need a fire suppression. It has its own vent system.
Mhm.
And Alan has worked with the company. We've determined how to manage its installation, and we're hopeful that it'll do what we want if you folks approve it.
Chap,
I'd just like to say that when we approve this, we're moving one additional step down the road of creating a pseudo tiki bar. So I think we should approve this without hesitation.
any further discussion?
Is it
This is
permitted?
Terry's
Does it-
Tiki Bar Light.
Does it have to be
That's
permitted?
exactly.
No,
Mark? No,
No, it
you
does
were
not.
sure it doesn't have to be permitted. Okay.
yes,
You do a regular tiki bar, it can be moved too.
Yeah, we could move it.
Okay, if there are no other discussion,
If
all
we
in
won't
favor of the
give up.
motion signify by raising your hand. Okay, looks like unanimously approved. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mark. Date of the next board meeting looks like February 20.
Can we have other new business?
Okay,
I'd
we
like
were going
to,
to set a record, but maybe not.
well, I want to raise Brownie's question again. Linda told us that the Valentine's Day dance is planned. I want to know if
outside.
that's, it is outside.
Outside,
Okay, it wasn't clarified that it was outside. So
Yeah.
are there any other indoor events planned in the clubhouse?
I think later on in the year, there's a family that has a get together that wants to be in here. That is Suzanne's just telling me that the COVID plans currently says that you can have, that dining can take place in the dining room as long as it is within the socially distant and within the guidelines of the 50%.
I think we specifically said Friday night dining. Isn't
No, you
that
didn't.
correct?
No, the text says dining room is open for dining and events at limited capacity and social distancing.
Okay,
Sitting at the bar is not permitted. Masks are required when not sitting to eat or drink. There's a whole section of food and beverage.
right.
But I do feel, I do think that Nikki has a family that is coming into town that wants to get together that night. It's only their family and
Yes.
wants to have dinner inside the clubhouse at socially distanced
Close it
situations.
if she could.
That's
But we're
later.
not
I think
planning
that's
any more indoor dancing events.
that's April or May, I think. So that's.
I don't think we have any
Hello.
planned.
Okay.
Okay. Any other new business Then the date of the next board meeting is February 25th at 1:30. Make any corrections on your sheet. And I will entertain a motion for adjournment
Move it.
by Jack and Terry. All in favor?
Aye.
Looks